All right, happy Tuesday. I feel like maybe it's later in the week than Tuesday, and that is because we have done lots and lots of visibility, lots and lots of showcases and conversations this week because we are celebrating what for us is the most exciting and important week of the year, which is International Coaching Week. So we are here for International Coaching Week 2025 and super excited to be here. We have been wonderfully supported by the coaching community during this week. We've had hundreds of you from all over the world joining us for workshops about the power of coach supervision for professional coaches. And we've had so much energy, so much enthusiasm, and so much support from everybody. We're really grateful. So the person that I'm going to be speaking to today is one of our wonderful supervisees in the Coaching Catalyst Supervision Collective, wonderful Sherry Bevan. So I'm not going to say too much more because I'm going to let Sherry come and introduce herself and share about herself and the work that she does. So without further ado, Sherry, let me bring you to the stage and warm welcome to you. Thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. I'm really excited to do this. I think what you've been doing this week is amazing. I've loved it so far.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. We always really appreciate your support, Sherry. So thank you. So for people watching who don't know you yet, can you give us an introduction to you and tell us a bit about your business and about what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I work as a team performance coach. My background is in professional services and technology. So I've done a lot of team coaching in those two areas. But I am really working hard this year to get much more involved in the sports world. So not coaching the sports teams, but coaching the people behind the team. So the technology people, the partnerships teams, the marketing teams, because I know that my favourites, I'm a huge cycling fan, and I know that, we see the likes of Mark Cavendish, Bradley Wiggins go and win stages, win tours, but I know that there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. And that's where my fascination is how do we make teams perform brilliantly so that the riders out on the road or on the pitch make the winning headlines.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. Thank you for your introduction. And I really love every time you speak about your business, every time you post about it, you're so good at posting on LinkedIn. You inspire me every time because I know that that passion for your business is really authentic, and therefore it's inspiring, right, for others to learn about it. And I love what you've created here because, as we know, like the origins of coaching as we know it, performance coaching, come from sports coaching. And I love what you're doing, looking at the team dynamics within sports and thinking about how we can apply those team dynamics into what we know as performance coaching. So it's really cool. So if you're not connected with Sherry Bevan on LinkedIn, go and connect with her because she's just, honestly, you do. I always praise you, don't I? I always comment on your social posts because you're brilliant.
Thank you, Sarah. That's lovely to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, no, genuinely, just love seeing and hearing what you do. So it feels like you've been working with us for a long time, and I completely obviously mean that in a good way. So I'm struggling now to kind of go back in time and remember a time before Sherry in our lives, but I don't know if you can remember. Can you take us
Oh,
back?
yeah, I definitely can remember. I've not been with you a year yet. I joined in July,
Right.
and yeah, and I came along to the in-person collective day. I had literally signed up the day before, and I
Great.
had literally reached out to Rebecca, I think 2 days before, and said, I'm interested in supervision. And and then before Rebecca got back to me, I thought, "Do you know what, I'm just going to do it because I didn't have supervision at the time, and I was feeling the need to get supervision because my previous supervision group was no longer. So yes, less than a year. But yeah, it feels like I've been around forever. And I have to say that the one thing I've loved about joining your community is everybody's been so warm and welcoming, and it feels like I've been here forever already because everybody's so lovely and supportive.
Do you know what? I'm so glad that you said that. And it does surprise me that it's been under a year. But then when I think about it, I think, well, actually, I'm not really surprised, because I really feel that the way in which you've shown up in the community, you're very generous in what you share. You're very active member of the community as well. So actually, we've had a lot of contact, right? We've had a
Mm.
lot of interaction over the course of the last year. And, you know, it's a cliche to say it, right? But you get out what you put in, and you have 100%
Yeah.
showed up during the last year, and really put the energy in. So thank you for that.
Yes, definitely. I think the more you show up, the more you get out of something, and that applies in all aspects of life. And I was about to draw in a sports analogy. I mean, like, why wouldn't I? But
Go
you know,
for
very much so. You know, if you're training for an event, you know, the more you put into your training, the more quality time you put into your training, then the better prepared you're going to be for that event. And it's the same with coaching, or the same with joining a collective or a community like this. If you show up, you get more out of it, because you're able to share your expertise, you're able to learn from others, you get fresh perspectives, you get new insights. And sometimes being able to share your expertise with others is a reflection. When people say, oh, wow, that's interesting, or I didn't know that, it gives you that kind of self confidence, I suppose, that yes, you do know what you're talking about. And so I think it helps to bolster your own self belief and your own confidence when you're showing up for others. You know, it's kind of like that benefit that you weren't. I mean, that's not why I show up. I show up because that's the sort of person I am. But I notice it definitely helps me to appreciate my strengths more.
Yeah, do you know what? I really love that. And I hear you. I know the intention behind you showing up and supporting others is exactly that, to show up and to support others. But you're absolutely right. The more that you share your knowledge, your experience, your point of view, it does. It helps you connect with your strengths. It helps you hone your expertise. And it helps really, you know, I think the thing we're getting to here is it helps with the connection as well. And I think that's why we feel that you are such an integral part of our community, because you've formed such deep connections with other members of the community. So thank you for all that you bring. You also mentioned you signed up, you came to our in-person event, and we, you know, we run in-person events for coaches twice a year, one in the summer and one in the winter. And again, that is an important part. You know, online connection is great, but in-person connection is also a really important part of what we do, because we connect differently when we're together.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember that first event so clearly, because I'd never even spoken to you or Rebecca before, but you'd been recommended to me, and I checked you out and thought, you know what you're talking about. And obviously we've got that coaching academy connection.
Of
But I
course,
remember one of the coaches, sorry, that you showcased, I think maybe yesterday, Tracy Croucher Clark.
that's
I
right.
remember she was the first person I talked to when I came, and she's just been so fabulous and so welcoming, and made me feel welcomed straight away. And then when I heard her on the showcase talking about how authenticity and honesty was so important to her, I thought, well, that's why I love you so much, because there was that genuine connection. And it makes, I mean, we're not in the same supervision group, but I really feel like I've got a strong connection with Tracy just from that meeting in person and having those insightful conversations. And I think she's another person who really shows up in your community.
She really does. She really does. And thank you for mentioning that, because in the conversation with Tracy yesterday, again, it was just such a wonderful opportunity to look back over her journey in the last year. And, you know, the progress that she has made has been absolutely phenomenal as well. So I just want to go back to what you said actually about the more that you put in, the more you get out, and how that links to supervision. Because I think you make a really good point. You recognize that you weren't in supervision, you recognize that you were actively looking for supervision. And I just want to highlight that as well, because I think that we can show up as coaches, do our coaching work, and not necessarily be in supervision. But what is it for you about being in supervision that supports you as a coach?
I think for me, supervision is so powerful because I can sit and reflect in my reflective journal and think about a particular client that I've worked with, or a particular workshop that I've facilitated, and think about what went well, what didn't go so well. And then I can also think about, well, so what, and why does that matter? when I'm doing that with my supervisor, she will notice the things that I haven't asked myself,
Mm.
and she will draw out, you can tell where body language is different, and so it helps to draw out even more, like an even richer reflection on a particular experience or a particular challenge. And I think sometimes you don't always know what's missing or what's not quite right. And although we can all self coach and use our own coaching questions, what we can't hear for ourselves is that those subtleties in body language and tone of voice, and when we slow down when we're talking because we're thinking, whereas somebody else can bring that out of you so much more effectively. So it helps to develop my practice. It makes me a better coach. It means that I become more aware of my strengths, because often I find, as human beings, we don't necessarily appreciate our own strengths. We just take, like, our own superpowers we take for granted, because that's your superpower. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think, like, for me, I don't have to think about how to lift the energy in a room, or how to notice that this one person over in the corner is not talking very much. It's just something I do, and I notice because that's part of me. But I think that's what you get from supervision is the person who's supervising you will draw that out and help you to notice and appreciate that as a strength. And it's a bit like going back to training for a cycling event. Like, if you're good on the hill climbs, or you're good on the flats, you might potentially only focus on the areas where you're not so strong and think, right, I've got to get better at sprinting. But it's also really important to focus on your strengths and get really good at the hill climbs, so that you get to be an even better cyclist, or in my case, an even better team coach. And I find it so invaluable to have that reflected back up, and not just strengths, but obviously also, maybe you could be doing that differently, and to challenge me on things and to reflect back perhaps on areas where I'm not so strong, or where I maybe think I'm doing good practice and it's maybe not best practice. So I think it's so helpful to develop my own skill set.
Yeah. Do you know, I mean, this is genuinely why I absolutely love listening to you, because my brain loves your sporting analogies. It's so interesting. I just love it. But you're right. Well, like what you say there, because I think sometimes, especially if we've not been in supervision before, we can think, oh, the supervisor's going to kind of tell me what I'm doing wrong in my coaching, or I'm going to have to share things that I really don't want to share. And actually, what you've shone a light on there is that supervision is just as much about eliciting and noticing what's going well and helping us to connect with our strengths, and therefore to strengthen that, as well as, and again, I love the sporting analogy, as well as that kind of gentle coaching, if you like, about thinking about, okay, well, what might I do to slightly adjust my approach? What might I do differently? So, yeah, really valuable. And of course, we've talked about relationship between supervisor and supervisee, but of course, in the Coaching Catalysts, in the Supervision Collective, we operate, don't we, as part of a group. So I wonder if you could speak to that, like about what it's like to be a member of a group. Where you're one of 6 coaches with your supervisor, Rebecca. So how does that experience support you?
I love group supervision. I think it's the best thing ever. The supervision that I had before was not for my work as a coach, it was for my work as a counsellor.
Right.
And I was in that same supervision group for maybe 13 years. And over those 13 years, members had come and gone, but there were maybe 3 or 4 of us that had always stayed the same. And again, that was 6 people in the group. And I think it's that depth that you get, because you get to know a person so much more when you meet with them on a regular basis. And I think what I find really powerful about group supervision is that when maybe somebody else has brought um, maybe a challenge around, I've got a really talkative client and I don't know how to handle that very well.
Mm.
That might not be a problem for me right now, but if ever that situation comes up in the future, I'm going to remember what was discussed, and I'm going to either reflect on, actually, I'm doing this really well, or reflect on, actually, I remember that technique that Jane shared, or that Karen shared, or that, Rebecca told me about, and I can then use that in my practice. So I think that the power of working with a group is you get to know each other. And, I know I'm very chatty now because I'm passionate about what I do, but naturally I'm more of an introvert. And so I wouldn't necessarily share things straight away with people. But when you're a part of a group and you get to know each other, it builds the trust and the connection, and therefore you're more likely to be open and honest with yourself, but also in front of others, because you know that you're going to be seen, you're going to be heard, your input is going to be valued no matter what that input is. So it means over time you get a much deeper experience from the supervision itself. It's much richer, so it means you're going to make more progress more quickly.
I love that. And you're so right. Like, you always remember, we were joking before we started this live that I didn't remember, like, well, I don't remember what's happened yesterday, but you're right. We do always remember what happens in supervision. And I think that's because we are so present with each other and so attentive to each other that you don't, you really hold on, don't you? You really remember those moments and those experiences. And so you're absolutely right. When you do then come to a similar situation, and you think, oh, how am I going to navigate this? You've got that memory bank of having supported somebody else in that situation to draw on, which builds your experience. So we have that kind of compound effect of other people's experience. We're not just relying on our own individual experience. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because you get to know each other, you can start to tell that, Karen, I'm not using real names here, obviously, but, you can tell that, oh, Karen's a bit quieter today than usual. And if we didn't know each other well, we wouldn't know if Karen's normally that quiet or if Karen's quieter than usual because of something else that's going on. So I think, it's so helpful to do it in a group setting because you learn from each other, but also you get to know each other, and eventually you get a much better experience from the supervision itself.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Sherry and I could be here all afternoon geeking out about our mutual love of supervision and sporting analogies. But I am aware of your time. Everybody who's watching and listening to this, thank you so much. And Sherry, of your time as well. So we are going to draw this to a close now. But I would encourage you, if you're watching this, go connect with Sherry over on LinkedIn. And also, if you want to hear more from Sherry, we do have a podcast episode on the Coaching Catalyst podcast where we had a bit longer that day, didn't we, to go into a bit more depth. So
yes,
go and check that out as well. So Sherry, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for all you bring to our community. You're really appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me today, Sarah. I've always really enjoyed talking to you, but yeah, I'm always happy to talk about this. Supervision is something so powerful and so valuable for every coach.
It is. It really is. Thank you so much. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed, as I did, hearing from Sherry. I always enjoy speaking to her and learning from her reflections. As mentioned at the beginning, it's a big week for us here at the Coaching Catalysts. It is International Coaching Week 2025. It feels like we've been here for about 3 weeks because it's been busy, but we're actually at the end of day 2. So we've had 2 workshops, day 1 and day 2. And I'm leading a workshop tomorrow, 10 a.m. UK time, on reflective practice for coaches. And then we're going to have a special masterclass on Thursday, all about how to really thrive as a professional coach. And then we're offering a network and connection session on Friday. So it's still lots to go this week. So if you haven't yet registered to join us, please don't miss out. Do make sure that you come over and you join us for this week. We are going to, let me just find the right link here. We've got so many going on here. Let me find us. Okay, here we go. That's the one that I want to show you. That's on the ticker there. So you need to head over to bit.ly supervision workshops, bit.ly/supervision workshops, and that will give you access then to all of the workshops and events that we're running during the week. And we would love to welcome you and love to connect with you. You missed yesterday, you missed today, don't worry, it's all on replay anyway, but also you will always receive a warm welcome from us at whatever point in the week you join us. Okay, I am going to stop here now because I'm aware we're nearly at 20 minutes, but massive thank you to all of you for joining, for your support this week. We cannot do this alone. We really need the support of the coaching community, so thank you so much.